Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have An-Taria Graham here with me today. How you doing, An-Taria?
I'm good. How are you, Cedric?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It looks like you do this already because your studio is ready to go. I love that light in the background.
I try to create a little ambiance, a little comfort here, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. I want to give our guest a welcome. I want to say hello to each and every person who's tuning in right now. It means a lot each and every time you tune into our episodes because, as you know, we've always got a special guest, and that includes you. So I look forward to your comments, your questions, anything that you want to say to the guest, add to the conversation will be appreciated. And so, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Antaria, where are you from?
Well, I say I'm kind of from two different places. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, spent kind of the first half of my life there. And then I kind of finished off middle school, high school, and college in North Carolina. So I have kind of a good mix of the two. But when I usually say where I'm from, I usually say I'm from Cleveland.
Okay. Wow. And what was it like for you growing up in Cleveland before you moved down south?
Well, it was fun. At that age, kids, not a whole lot of worries in the
Right.
world.
Okay.
So it was enjoyable despite the winters that were very cold. I enjoyed being around my family and I only have really good fond memories of Cleveland. So
Mhm.
can't really complain about my upbringing.
It's really refreshing to hear you say that you can't think of anything but positive memories about your childhood from Cleveland, Ohio. Can you paint that picture for us? Give us a memory that's really fond of yours.
Um, Honestly, the one that comes to mind the most was really, and I think it's such a lost art with
Okay.
this generation now, unfortunately. But I really just remember coming home from school, and this was, throughout kind of like elementary into middle school, and just being so excited to go outside and play with my neighborhood
Right.
friends. It was like mindless playing, but it
Yeah.
was like the best thing ever just to stay outside and do whatever we came up to do, whatever our imaginations, wherever it took us,
Mhm.
until the street lights came on and it was time to go back inside. But really, I just genuinely appreciate kind of the time period I grew up in, and just those
Mhm.
kind of carefree memories that I got
There
to
you
spend
go.
with my friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember what it was like being a kid, being well, not you're child free and carefree, drop a one in the chat. And we want to talk about some of the games that you were playing for those people who might have been born in the 2000s or even the late 90s who don't understand the actual excitement that you're describing right now. What were some of the games that you played back then that really just made the time fly?
It's again, I say it was kind of carefree and mindless games.
Right.
Obviously, the hide and seeks were always fun.
Hmm.
I had like other younger girls who were around my age, and we would like play house, and some would be the mommy and some would be the kid.
Yep.
I was a little tomboyish, so even to the point, we had a big like open field next to our house, and we would just kind of ride our bikes over like this little hill in the yard. We play sticks. You
Mhm.
name it, we found fun in the dirt, and it was like a blast. So
That's right.
those are really good memories for sure.
I would love to see our children of today be able to go outside and just have careless play. It does so much for your imagination. It does so much for your idea of the world. And who knows the connections that you're actually making when you're, playing red light, green light, or just simply playing in the dirt. Sometimes we've sat in the dirt and literally created a whole imaginary meal out of dirt and rocks. And it's that level of play that turns into improvisation when you get into high school. It turns into off the cuff conversations when you get into the corporate space. So yeah, everybody be encouraged. After the pandemic, this is what I want you to do. Especially if you're in one of those houses that got a front door and a back door, I want you to do this. Open your front door, have a seat on the couch, and let your kids race from the back of the house to the front door and jump off the porch. That's what we're doing tonight. Everybody, drop a number one in the chat if you're feeling the vibes that we're talking about. We're talking about the past few decades of great summer. We're talking about the late 80s, the early 90s. These are the decades that made us. All right.
Mhm.
Now, what were the foods like? What were y'all eating in Cleveland? Where because I'm also from Cleveland, so I'm quick to talk about the corned beef sandwich, or a few other favorites. What were your favorites out there in Cleveland? What were you guys eating? Paint that
I'm
picture for me.
I mean, as a kid, though, what we ate as a kid was a little different. Like we
Mm-hmm.
had just like regular potato chips with hot sauce. That was
Right.
like, I don't know. I just love that. We had the corner store, which you could just walk to. You have maybe a quarter or a couple dimes and just go pick up little candy. I love Laffy Taffies. Like those are like my go-tos.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, corned beef. I mean, we cooked out a lot. I just remember like just hot dogs with like a regular piece of bread, and it was the best hot dog with
The
a
best
regular
you
piece
ever
of
had.
bread
Yeah.
ever. So I think probably the biggest thing would be like the corned beef for Cleveland. But um
Mhm.
I mean, anything that was probably placed in front of me, we just ate it because we were just having a good time.
That's right. And those corner stores, can't say enough about them either. They always added on to the fun. Those corner stores, I don't know if they get enough respect these days, but definitely want to appreciate those. They add to the memories. Now, were you in school before you went down south, or did you start school down south as well?
So while I was in Cleveland, I had gone to my Catholic school, kind of the same classmates from kindergarten all the way until fifth grade, and then
Oh,
finished out fifth grade, and then that's when we moved to North Carolina. So I started sixth grade and kind of finished out in North Carolina. So I was kind of right in that
mhm,
transitional period,
mhm,
um, kind of elementary to middle school. So it
mhm.
was it was it was a tough transition for sure.
Okay. Now, as an elementary school kid, and we're getting ready to transition into different parts of your life. As an elementary school kid, did you have a favorite subject? Was there anything that you were particularly good at that you noticed at the time?
Um, I mean, I enjoyed math because I felt like I don't know if it was the memorization or that I was actually just good at it, but I
Mhm.
did really, really well in math. But for some reason, honestly, and I feel like this is kind of a cop out, but like PE was just I enjoyed being able to just like compete and be better than the boys. So I loved like dressing up for or dressing out for PE and kind of having my fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm having the ultimate flashback right now. I agree with you. Ladies and gentlemen, drop a number one in the chat if you remember how gym class was. And she called it PE, which is physical education, but we're also talking about gym class. And I remember you going to gym. The gym was always nice, squeaky clean, shiny, lights bright. They had ropes coming off the ceiling. Sometimes, like maybe once a year, you actually have to try to climb the rope. They had these little four wheel. It was like a board on four wheels, and it had a cord attached to it. You could pull it across the gym. I don't know if you played with that. Dodgeball games were epic.
Mhm. Yep.
Hey, gym used to be something. Gym really used to be something back in the day.
Again, it's that carefree, that no worries. Again, my favorite game was it was like a big, almost like a kite. It was a multicolored kite where you would throw it up, like everybody would hold on to it, throw it up, and you have to run under, grab something, and come back before it fell on you. That was my favorite for sure.
Wow. Everybody give it up for elementary school. I'm not talking about the new elementary school where they may be teaching to the test or just provided a core learning experience, but I'm talking about the overall culture that a lot of us came out of. And I'm 32 for those of you who might not know. Now, when you transition to North Carolina, you were old enough to know that you were going into a different culture, a different climate, a different setting. Talk about that transition. What did it feel like?
Um, well, as a preteen, it was tough. I know I think later on in life I apologized to my mom because I was so upset to leave my comfort of Cleveland, my comfort of
Wow.
friends, my comfort of just having that routine and literally getting transplanted into an entirely new environment where I had to figure out who I was again and was it okay with my settings. It was really, really tough, but kind of they say hindsight is always 2020. It was literally the best decision my mom could have made and probably the best, you know, decision of my life. I don't know what my life would have looked like had I stayed in Cleveland. I only know what it looked like moving to North Carolina. Although it was tough, it was hard. It ultimately made me who I am.
This moment right here is a moment where you relate and connect to so many thousands of people across the country today. There are transitions that happen in life, and they happen in different phases of life. But when you make a transition, a major transition as a young person, that transition impacts the rest of your life. A lot of people who might be in our audience today or just out there in the general public, they had a transition in their life. And the decisions that they made during that transition has brought them to where they are today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about the transitions that you've made in your life. Maybe you are at a transitional moment right now. Maybe you're transitioning right now. We're raising awareness about what you do in the transitional period. How do you get over it? How do you make your life a better thing through the transition? But first, it's going to be tough. So now, what was it like being the new person at school, the new person in your community? Like how did you cope?
Oh my gosh. It was tough. I'll never forget my first day. This is taking me back a little bit. My first day of school. I was dreading it already. Um and I didn't know a single person. It was hard. Think being a preteen around other preteens who already have their cliques, already have their friends, and they're just like, who is this chick? Where is she from? They weren't super nice. Not some of them were, but a lot of them weren't. But I just remember I was so I felt so isolated my first day of school that I went to the bathroom and I just sat there one entire period, like one class period, and I was just like, this is horrible. Like this is the worst thing that my mom could have ever done to me. I'm
Mhm.
like in my feelings at that point, and I just remember that being my low, and I was just
Mhm.
like, well, I have no choice. I have to stay here. It's either I figure it out and push through and just become who An-Taria is, um, or kind of succumb to my feelings and succumb to my thoughts. And
Mhm.
although that was a really really low point for a preteen, I decided to make the best of my situation, and eventually I kind of found one friend, and
Right.
then by way of her found another friend, and so I had my little clique.
Mhm.
Sports helped, so I got into sports, and I kind of came into my own. So
That's
it,
right.
it 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 went down, but I made that decision to force it
Mhm.
back up.
I like how you take ownership over your decision to move forward in a positive direction. Even though you felt isolated, you felt like you were the new person on the block, and a lot of kids, your peers, they aren't always nice when you're the new person. Sometimes we call it shade. Sometimes we call it hate, right? Not hate in a very literal sense, but hate as a symbology of, oh, I don't like what's different. Different in this case is this girl named An-Taria. A lot of guys like her, the teachers liking her, and it's making me uncomfortable because now the whole ranking system has to change because of this new person, right? And so you feel a lot of anxiety, you feel a lot of angst, and I think a lot of people can identify with that. I certainly can identify with that as well. And I want to know, what were your conversations like with your parents as you came into a more positive perspective on things after you got a couple of new friends, after you joined a sport? How did your conversations with your parents change and evolve over those months?
I would like to think that it it changed. I would say I was a little mature for my age at that time,
Mhm.
but still a preteen teenager.
Mhm.
Did I articulate it to my mother that I finally found my friends? Like this wasn't the worst decision you ever made in my life.
Mhm.
I may not have articulated that until later on in life,
Okay.
but I think she knew more than anything. Parents know their children, and
Mhm.
to see probably a shift in my aura and my attitude, that's probably all she needed to know, and all she needed to see and hear was that, okay, now she wants to go hang out with whoever this one or two girls are,
Mhm.
and now she has basketball tryouts. Oh, she made the team. Now she has basketball games, and then there's
Mhm.
track. And she saw me getting comfortable with falling into who I was in North Carolina, and I think that's all she needed. I
Right.
don't think it was my place to say anything at that time, but
Mhm.
it definitely came later on in life.
Mhm. You make a great point. When you're younger, a lot of the times it's your parents who have the bird's eye view. You're on the sidewalk, and so you just know that there's a lot of new people, a lot of new stuff going on, and so sometimes you just gotta have faith in your parents. Were you going to church at this time in your life?
We were going to church. We had found a church home, so that was another piece of comfort for me as well.
Okay. Do you have siblings?
Yes, so I am the middle child. I have an older brother and a much younger sister, so it was a lot of time frame, 9 years between us. So kind of closest to my brother, just in age range, we're 3 years
Mhm.
apart, but I'm right in the middle.
Was your brother a key factor in your ability to cope and assimilate into that new space in life?
Yeah, I mean, he helped maybe more indirectly than directly.
Hmm.
Just seeing him, he started a new high school. I think that's
Right.
probably a little bit
Wow.
worse than me trying to,
Hmm.
be in middle school and figure things out. So to see him kind of find his way as well, I think we kind of both had that experience, that shared experience. Again, although we may not have said it to each other, he found his friends, he found his thing. Um, and just knowing that I was going to be going to his high school eventually and he would
Hmm.
have still been there, that was also another like, okay, so I'll still have my big brother regardless.
Right.
So he experienced the same thing, but we definitely went through that process together.
I love this experience as a case study of what it takes for us to become successful individuals. I think most of us, if not all of us, are going to have an experience where we say, I'm going to have to morph into a bigger, better form of myself. Everybody needs that experience at one point or another. If you never have it, then I think you find yourself just admiring the people who did. So I want to encourage people, if you've never had this transition that we're talking about, create the transition. I was in a room full of professionals. I might have been one of the younger people in the room, and a gentleman pulled me to the side and he said, Cedric, sometimes in order to be successful, in order to get to where you're going, sometimes you got to leave. And so, ladies and gentlemen, drop a one in the chat if you have the courage, if you have the wisdom to understand what we're talking about tonight, which is sometimes you have to transition. Sometimes you've got to go and put yourself in a situation where it's uncomfortable because you're new. Nobody knows about your successes last year. Nobody knows why you're a big deal from last year. Nobody knows about your failures from last year. Now you got to have this moment where you say, you know what? I'm going to make my next move my best move. Okay? Now, what was the culture like? What was the Southern hospitality like? What is it that we're missing about the South? For those people who've never been down South, what's going on down there that is just so delicious and edifying? Teach us something. Teach us something.
I'll try my best. Now, the
Okay.
South, there is this Southern hospitality. I think getting past the whole it's a new place and it's out of my comfort zone. Once I got past that, I was like, man, this place is actually it's actually pretty dope. Like it's one, the weather is better than Cleveland. I didn't have to worry about like walking to school in snow because if it sprinkles snow, school shut down.
Right.
But the weather's better. There was kind of a sense of just like community. I mean, I'm not saying that Cleveland doesn't have this, but like the neighbors, whether they were young or old, like we had neighbors who didn't look like us and they were still
Mhm.
super friendly. And it was just something new that I hadn't seen in Cleveland because we all looked alike, and our stories are pretty much
Wow.
very, very similar. So being
Mhm.
in North Carolina, I was going to school with people who didn't look like me at all. And I was
Right.
like, oh, I can make conversation with these people. Like we have something in common.
Mhm.
Or even that their circumstances at home was so much different. I grew up in a single parent home, and making friends with people of other races who fathers and mothers were either doctors, lawyers, like it was such a shift from what I was used to in Cleveland. But I mean, even just the food is good. There's barbecue,
Right.
like all of it, all they say about the South is true. So I
Right.
say everyone should experience
Wow.
it.
Okay. I want to take some time to acknowledge the people who are tuned in right now. We got Emery Curry in the building, Sierra Young, Chassie Curry, Yolanda Riley, Cordell Davis, just to name a few. Faye Davis. Just want to say hello to everybody who's out there and appreciate you guys. The folks who we cannot see on Roku TV, I want to say hello. Thanks for tuning into our episode. If you're on Apple TV, Android TV, YouTube, or just out there on Facebook, I want to say hello to you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Right now, we're talking to An-Taria Graham about the Southern hospitality that a lot of people don't really know about. When you went down south and you got older, because we're transitioning into high school now, did you begin to see more people who look like you in positions of authority? Was that a thing?
Um, at first thought, not exactly. I
Okay.
think the people that looked like me that I can remember and recall were like my coaches.
Mhm.
And I can't say much administration, even at school. So I honestly, I didn't see a whole lot of people that looked like me in higher positions. But I will say that I did experience some friends or maybe classmates whose parents who I knew were maybe they were a lawyer or things of that
Right.
sort. But I was so far removed
Mhm.
that I never really saw it in action to really like experience it hands on.
Mhm. Would you say that you were exposed to a larger middle or upper middle class or upper class of African Americans down south versus in Cleveland?
I would say yes. Versus Cleveland, absolutely. I think in Cleveland, again, we all kind of came from the same area. Like you don't really
Right.
go to that area unless you live in that area, was what I
Mhm.
experienced in Cleveland. And in North Carolina, we were intermingling. I think just kind of the school setup, people will come, you could come from different areas to that school. So that helped me kind of see that it was possible,
Mhm.
and that we weren't limited. So that was probably was my first taste into seeing that, wow, like, I can have a big house. I'll never forget one of my friends. I went over to his house just to hang out. They were having something going on, and I say it was so far away from where I lived. It was like really far away. But when I got there, I was like, this is like a mansion. And I was just
Mhm.
like, it was probably the first mansion I had seen. And to me, it looked like a mansion. And it was a big house, but I was like, there are people who look like me who live in this. Like,
Right.
how is this possible?
Right.
And I can actually walk into it, and not
Mhm.
be in the wrong place, So it was really eye opening for sure.
That's right. Very important, ladies and gentlemen, to travel. Go out there, see the South. Go out there, see the West. See the East if you're not from there. See the Midwest, and realize that there are places right here in America where people who look like you and I are living well, living in diverse communities. It's not always African Americans, but there's different cultures right here in America. All cultures are not your own. I was having a barbershop conversation where I was telling everybody that Cleveland was a major city. And these folks were from places like Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, and they were saying, no, Cleveland is not really a major city. And I was like, yes, it is. I was like, look it up, look it up. I remember I said it like 4 or 5 times. Look it up. Somebody put hashtag look it up in the chat. And when I looked it up, Cleveland is not very high on the list of major cities. And so we've got to be reminded that we live in a big country. America is something to discover. Go down south and see how people live 5 miles apart, 10 miles apart. You come from one good community, you go to another good community. And this is a vast network of people and places for us to go out there and see. Now, as you began to transition out of high school, were there any rites of passages, any programs that really broadened your horizons and gave you the notion that you could be an actual star? Were there any rites of passage for you?
I would say that that probably was the biggest advantage that I didn't realize at the time versus kind of Cleveland. There was in North Carolina, they had so many after school programs or even college preparatory programs and classes and like things that I didn't even realize I needed. Like you could take
Mhm,
classes in high school to prepare you for college.
mhm,
And I was just like, I can get college credit in high school. Like it was just so mind blowing to me. So many of my friends and associates were, in these programs, just like doing what they needed to do. And I was
right.
just like, man, this is crazy to see so many students and kids, just like me,
Mhm,
just like actually working towards a goal and working towards something greater. And
mhm,
those opportunities were there plentiful. I was a great student. I didn't participate in a lot of those kind of after school programs or things like that because I was so heavy into sports at the
okay,
time. And it wasn't to a detriment. I mean, sports was what I loved and I enjoyed. But even just in school, I was in kind of the scholarship programs in school and taking those college courses in school. So I was still doing what I needed to do, but the education system down there is so intentional to educating and setting you up for success. Was it was just you had to choose not to be a part of it and not to
mhm,
want to succeed because they were just kind of giving you all that you need, all the tools. You just have to take the tool and use
right.
it. So yeah, they definitely care for sure.
What would you say to a young lady or a young man who's had a major transition in their life? Maybe they're going through a major transition right now, and they could use a word from you. What do you say to them tonight?
I would say everything happens for a reason. Um, and you may not realize it now that you need this transition. You may not realize it now how beneficial this shift is for you. But the best thing you can do is decide to stay the path and stay the course and at least see what you can be on the other side of that transition. You never know if you never continue to follow that path and follow that trail. So, some of the biggest regrets are never seen because you never knew what was on the other side of that. So the
Wow.
best thing you can do is just at least try to see what the other side looks like, because more than likely you need it and it's for your benefit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to An-Taria Graham. She's had a very relatable experience, and we're covering that tonight. You sit tight. We'll be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Antaria, how you feeling out there?
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling I can't complain at all.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, so now you're down south. You're enjoying a new life. Did you want to go to college?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it was like in my mind the only option. There wasn't
Mhm,
really a plan B for me personally.
mhm. What college did you choose, or what college chose you?
Well, I chose the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. It was actually the only college that I applied to.
Okay.
So it
You
was
said,
either
hold on. You said North Carolina, Wilmington.
yes.
Okay. All right. Talk to us about the culture there. When you got there, what did you see? Who did you see? What did it feel like? Did you have a good band?
Well, so a little background on North
Okay.
Carolina, Wilmington. Not to be confused with North Carolina A&T, completely different spectrums of schools. So
Okay.
I'll give you a little bit more history on why I chose. It's UNC Wilmington. I'll just say UNC Wilmington. Um, I wanted to stay in state for
Okay.
in-state tuition, but I wanted to be as far away from home as possible.
Mhm.
So it was literally the furthest away, but still in state. But also, I chose it because UNC Wilmington was a PWI. And for those of you who don't know kind of the acronyms, PWI is a predominantly white institution. And I chose that school because I felt it would give me the best opportunity to assimilate into a culture outside of my own.
Mhm.
And I wanted to learn how to interact and talk to people who didn't look like me, who didn't come from the same backgrounds as I did, because I felt like my university was more representative of what America looked like.
Wow.
So I wasn't going to be in the majority. I wasn't
Mhm.
going to be, in the top positions. I would have to prove myself and fight to get
Mhm.
into these positions, um, and earn my spot. So that's what Wilmington was for me. We didn't have a football team, no football team. So basketball was our biggest thing.
Mhm.
But I again chose that school intentionally.
You know, I hear initiative uh, coming through this conversation. Just 10 minutes ago, you talked about how you decided that the transition that you made down south, it wasn't going to be something that you didn't make into a positive thing. And then here you are several years later deciding to go to a large white institution. And when I say white institution, for those people who might not understand, we're talking about a college or university where the majority of the students there, the sometimes the big majority of the students there are white. And you made that choice because you wanted to be in a competitive space where it's not comfortable because everybody looks like you and everybody is on the same cultural lens. You wanted to go someplace where you've got to learn other people have to learn you, and then you rise to the top there. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I think this is huge. Sierra Young said that's a flat out boss move, and I agree. I agree. I spent some of my moments of life in sales, and another gentleman spoke to me and he said, Cedric, sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone in order to be successful in sales because everybody who's making a purchasing decision doesn't look like you. And if 6 out of 10 people who's making a purchasing decision doesn't look like you, then you need to master the art of working with people who don't look like you. It's just that simple. In order to be successful, you've got to look at the demographics, you got to look at the big picture. And the big picture is you can't just deal with your own kind. That's not everybody's reality. So I hear initiative in the fact that you said, let me go out here and really get ahead of the game by figuring out how to do universal business, universal scholarship, universal engagement. Who did you become on that campus though?
Wow. That's a great question. Actually, I became an Antaria that I didn't even know existed inside. You know, I
Wow.
I'd come through Cleveland, I'd come through new middle school, new territory, and coming into who I thought I was in high school, but in college, it was a whole nother level of a challenge. I thank my decision um, on choosing that university because it literally did exactly what I needed it to do. I wasn't prepared to the extent of what it would be. I came in kind of quiet, still a little unsure of myself. All I kind of relied on was sports. I knew I was good at sports, so I kind of rested on that, but still kind of very in my tomboyish ways. Um, And by the time I left Wilmington, I had become a leader in so many aspects that I didn't even know I could have. Improving myself to myself so many times over and over again, taking chances. Like I say, that's what college is for. Not It's not for everyone, but if you are going to choose that college route, it's for you to see what you are capable of. It's for you to make mistakes and bounce back. But again, I took chances on myself and applied for things that I didn't know I could get into, or took leadership roles that I wasn't sure if I would actually qualify for. And, you know, I was this position, this position, this position. And by the time it was my senior year, I was um, one of two, it was only two women of color on the homecoming court at a
Mm.
predominantly white institution. And I
Mhm.
was one of them. But had you told me that in freshman year, I'd be like, there's no way. Not a chance. Anybody that looks like me would even have a chance to be on the homecoming court, um, amongst so many other things. So it was really, really life changing.
Talk to me about that moment where you decided to come out of your shell socially. So it's not just that you're comfortable on the track, you're comfortable on the field, but when you have to be comfortable in an auditorium, or comfortable on the field, on the yard. Talk about that moment where you became more comfortable with coming out of your shell socially.
Yeah, I would say that there were very, very small deposits throughout high school. I was in leadership roles, but not to the extent that I was on the university level. And I can't even remember the first kind of group I was a part of,
Mhm.
but I think once I applied for that group and really had to sell myself of why I deserve to be in this group and be in
Mhm.
this position, and to kind of get that chance to prove myself and how well I did, I was like, oh, you guys have lit a fire. Like you said, I could do this. Now there's no reason I can't do this, and there's no
Wow.
reason I can't do this. So it was really just that opportunity to kind of prove myself. And again, taking on those leadership roles that I didn't really think that I could do. There's RAs who are resident assistants. That's one of the higher positions because you have to be top notch. You're a leader.
Right.
The administration loves you. Orientation leaders, things of that sort. I joined a sorority, which was another hard hard decision and hard process, to kind of think, can I actually do this? Would they actually accept me?
Mhm.
And I think it was just that first opportunity when they said, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And it was like, all right, well, you gave it to me. Now I'm about to take advantage
Right.
completely. And I never stopped.
What do you say to young men and young women out there who they've not come out of their shell yet? They don't see what's potentially out there if they would just go ahead and snap and pop. What's up? I mean, talk to them. Give them some insight. How your world opened up when you decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna go out here and let people know who I am. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I have to always say the decision is yours. No one can make that decision for you.
Mhm.
Um, you have to decide in your mind that either I'm going to go this route, or I'm going to go this route. There's no one. Sometimes you're kind of pushed a certain way, but ultimately it's you to decide. Or am I going to let them continue to push me this way, or I see something else over here? What do I need to do to go this way? And for me, it was simply just applying and preparing for a no. You have to prepare for a no, but also prepare for that yes.
There you go.
There's never there's only kind of two options. You're either going to get it or you're not. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So if they say no, okay, fine. Go on to the next opportunity. Somebody's going to say yes eventually, but you can never actually see your potential if you never take the chance.
That's
So
huge.
you
That's
have to
absolutely
be
huge.
okay. Yep, be okay with failure, but also be prepared for that success. It's bound to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, she said something huge just now. Prepare for yes. There's a lot of different programs you can get in. where people are going to tell you to be prepared for no. Some people tell you to go in there looking for the no. Some people tell you to go in and look for failure, find failure, embrace it over and over. And that's great. But you've also got to be prepared for yes. Yes, I want to bring you onto the team. Yes, I want to hire you. Yes, you're the person for the leadership in this organization. Are you prepared for the yes? Sometimes, a lot of times in life, it's like, man, if I could just get an opportunity to do this, or if I could just get an opportunity to do that. But then when somebody call you and say, hey, we got an opportunity for you to do just that. Oh, you got to fix your papers up. You got to hurry and fix your papers up. Be prepared for the yes. I think that is absolutely huge. Now, you mentioned that you joined a sorority. Can you give us some insight? What is a sorority first, and how did it enhance the overall experience of your life?
So a sorority is, well, I was a part of a NPHC organization, which is, just for lack of a better term, a predominantly Black organization, or sorority, that were created back during the segregation days, where Blacks weren't allowed to, be a part of a university at all, or if they were still kind of segregated. So sororities and fraternities were created to build community among people of color at the time. So they've carried on throughout the years. And I joined Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I joined it for so many different reasons. I knew I was interested, but I also wanted to see their impact on the campus. And what I mean by impact is, what did the women who were a part of that organization, what did they represent? How did I see them when I first came on? And literally, probably within my first week or two, I was seeing Deltas everywhere in leadership positions, making a difference, making a change. They're based on community service, scholarship, and sisterhood. So I was like, this is my avenue.
Mhm.
But I only felt confident enough to even give Delta a shot because of the other small,
That's right.
occurrences that I tried for
That's right.
before I even tried for Delta.
That's right.
So it was a decision that I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure if I was capable of doing.
Mhm.
And thankfully, they saw something in me as well,
Mhm.
and that was a life-changing experience as well. I mean, I still have those sorority sisters. Talked to one of them yesterday. They were at my wedding. We still are connected to this day.
This is another victorious moment for our public right here. I noticed that you say it's the small initiatives that I took back then that led up to this big initiative I was able to take yesterday, that I'm able to take today. And I want to make this a victorious moment for our audience, because maybe they're not in college right now, maybe they've already graduated, maybe they haven't gone yet, but they need to take initiative somewhere in their life. You wonder, when is my business going to take off? When am I going to get my $1 million? When am I going to become very, very successful? When am I going to become absolutely great? You've got to take a look at the smaller picture and say, where are the initiatives I could be taking right now? Sure, I'm nobody's doctor, but could I be mentoring somebody else right now? Could somebody else be benefiting from what I know? Could I take that initiative? Can I take a course right now? Could I write a poem? Can I express myself some type of way? Take initiative, whatever it might be. Make your bed up tomorrow morning. You guys know what I'm doing right now. Make your bed up tomorrow morning. Take initiative. The next day after that, take a larger initiative. The next thing you know, you'll be prepared for the yes, but you'll be also prepared for your graduation into the next chapter of your life, which is going to be absolutely wonderful. Take initiative now so that you're ready to make a change tomorrow. I want you to talk to me about the courage, the experience of saying, yes, I am an African American woman. I'm proud of being an African American woman, even on a private white institution's campus. And even, hey, to the larger America, I'm an African American woman and I'm proud of it. Talk about that moment, that experience.
Um, it's I would say it's still a scary one.
Hmm.
I can't take the humanness out of it. You know, not
Yeah.
being in the majority is not always comfortable. You want to see people who look like you. You want to be around things that are familiar to you. But I'm thankful for, I don't know if it was prayers or if it's just what God put in me, but um, I refuse to let anybody else tell me what I can do despite what I look like. And I refuse to carry that on for my younger sister who looks up to me, to whatever young girl is going to look up to me. Um, there's nothing that we can't do. We just have to make it up in our mind that we can do it. And I don't care what he or she might say that we can or can't do, or where we might have come from. We are clearly strong through our lineage.
Wow.
Our history says
Hold on.
so much.
What do you mean by that? We're strong through our lineage. Our history says so much, and you're talking about Black women, African American women. What are you talking about? Explain.
I'm I'm talking about black people, period, but especially women. As a woman, I can experience or relate to being a woman, obviously. But our history, our slave history, you know, people tried to tear us down because they saw something in us that they didn't want to continue to grow, to continue to build. That was strength, intelligence, capability.
Mm.
They wanted to tear us down before we ever realized what we were capable of. It's still going on today. They want to tear us down because they see what we are capable of. But you have to be wise enough, be steps ahead of them, to know that they're already going to look at you and say, you probably can't do this, or you probably don't want to do this, or you shouldn't do this. But you still have to have the strength that's already in you to say, I don't care what you have to say. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm prepared for whatever is ahead of me. And that's what I decided to do and continue to do every day. Not easy, but it's worth it 100%.
Is there anybody who you want to say thank you to, looking back hindsight in your life?
There's a lot of thank yous. Honestly, there's a lot of thank yous at different stages in my life.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, the most obvious, my mother, my grandmother, my first kind of examples of strong Black women. But there were just so many different people also just throughout life that gave me that extra nudge that I needed when I was kind of falling back. They're like, no, like keep going. So I would just say I thank every Black woman in my path that I've come across that saw in me what I didn't even see in me. And I hope that I can do that for even just one behind me, to tell her to keep going, keep pushing. There's so much more in you, um, and just got to keep striving for it.
Do you feel, and you're the subject matter expert here in this space, do you feel that there are Black women in America who still need to step into the authority in their life? They still need to take life by the horns. They need to go out there and demonstrate more of their expression, more of their capability, their intelligence. Do you think that there are still Black women in the shadows of America that need to be more in the forefront?
Absolutely, absolutely. I I think there's so much lost potential, but
Hmm.
it's not necessarily the blame of that Black woman or Black person. I think a lot of it has to do with generational curses that have yet to be broken, or that are still kind of hanging on by a thread.
Hmm.
Um, there are so many women that I see, and I'm just like, if you just see what's in you and choose to accept it, and not to accept what you've been given, but to strive for what you could have, there's the world is endless for you.
Are
But
you saying, are you saying here tonight on America's Next Motivator that more African American women need to come out of the shadows and make their greatness known? Is that what you're saying tonight?
100%. It is so much untapped potential, untapped queendom Let us
Mm.
be captured. And it's because for whatever reason in our minds we're not choosing to accept what we are, or we're choosing to just accept the average or the norm or what we've already seen. Why not be that something different? Why not strive for that something more? Why not break the traditions that have held us back previously? You can be that. You just have to choose to be that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but right now, my gears are turning right now. I'm on fire right now. I think that it speaks volumes that your choice of a message tonight is that Black women need to come out of the shadows, let the world know how intelligent, how capable, how talented, how creative they are. We don't live in a society where you have to be in the shadows anymore. So come out, let everybody know, let the world know. I love that you talk about that tonight. Take heed, everybody. Let's get some hearts and lights in the building for the courage of An-Taria Graham tonight. She said, come out of the shadows, Black woman. She said, make it known that you're great, that you're prowess, that you come from a rich history, that you are phenomenal. Somebody put hashtag phenomenal in the chat. I'll put it on the screen. And I got to shake the room up a little bit. We're talking about the women, but do we have men out here that that need to express themselves a little bit more, who also need to enunciate the talent, the imagination, the prowess, the intelligence that they have as well? Are Black men and women in the shadows in America? Let's go.
Well, what I have to say to the Black man, I am married to a Black man. I have a brother who is a Black man. And all I have to say is that you are the backbone. You were created. You were created to help us. So live up to what you were created to do. You were created to be that strength. You were created to be that foundation, that leader for the Black women. We can't be strong all on our own. We're here to support you to be strong. But the other thing I have to say is society tells you what they think you should be and what they think you're going to do and what they think you're going to stumble into. Why prove them right? You have the choice to prove them wrong. Be everything that they said you couldn't be: strong, intelligent, capable. There's just, the possibilities are endless. I choose every day to uplift my husband, who has to go out into the world and be a Black man who doesn't think he even deserves to be in the position he's in. And I can only imagine what our Black men go through. But you make that decision to prove them wrong. And not even for them, but for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely key right here. Your message to the Black man that he should continue to partner with the Black woman. He should co-opt with the Black woman and be a unit, be a positive influence on a community, be community builders, be unified. I think your message to the Black men is very strong tonight, and I want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to some of the Black men or men in general who played a role in your journey tonight. Any men out there that you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it kind of goes the same as my thanks to the Black women. It would start with obviously my father. I wouldn't be here without, you know, his part his part in the story, and who he is in my life today. And my brother, um, a Black male in society, trying to make it through and get through all of the checks against him, and
Right.
choosing to not succumb to all of that. So
Absolutely.
thank you to all of them.
Absolutely. I've got three questions for you. Ladies and gentlemen, now is your time to drop a question or comment in the chat. This has been a very powerful conversation. And as you know, as we round third base here, I got a few questions for you. The first, and we've got 40 seconds left in the show. What is survival to you?
Survival is pushing through despite all the odds that are placed against you.
What is success to you?
Success is pushing through towards whatever goal that it is that you're trying to accomplish, and doing whatever it takes to get there and accomplish it.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness is being in that position that you've worked and strove and fought for, and recognizing the influence that you have and utilizing it with humility, and knowing that it's not for you, but it's that for those who are behind you.
Humility in the beginning and the end. Ladies and gentlemen, An-Taria Curry, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I love how you overcame adversity, how you pushed through. You made positive, victorious moments over and over in your life. And I want to give you your respect today while you're here to receive it. I also want to give you your crown today. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. We're also giving you a crown today while you're still alive to receive it. Put your crown emojis into the chat. We are letting you know, letting the world know that you, An-Taria Graham, you are America's next motivator.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm giving all the
Absolutely.
crowns back as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by today. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you got to do, just like you did today, is stop by and pick it up.